Hey everyone, welcome to another video. In this video we're gonna be looking back at my 2020 favorites. I'm gonna be telling you if I still love these, if these are still my favorites, or if I change my mind about them. So let's get right into it. So at the end of last year I did my yearly favorites. I hadn't been reviewing makeup on YouTube for a long time then. It was only like a month into my channel. So I hadn't tested a lot. I had tested a few things. So some of these products weren't actually new in the year, or I had been using them quite a lot before I started my YouTube. So there are also some older favorites in that video that we're going to be chatting about. But I have almost everything here in front of me, and I have to say I think I did a pretty good job picking these out because most of these are still my favorite. Let me first mention one product before I forget, because I decluttered that one. Not because I didn't like it, just because it was getting too old and I thought it was just time to get rid of it. And that is actually the MAC Mehr matte lipstick. I've loved that one for years. It was a really beautiful rosy pink nude, but it was actually so old. So I put it in my project pan, realized that I didn't really want to use it that much anymore, and then I got rid of it. So was it still a favorite? Maybe not exactly. I still think that that lipstick had a beautiful formula. It looked pretty, but it also wasn't a color anymore that I like to wear on the daily. I used to wear a lot of very simple eye looks, kind of like this one, and then I would combine it with a pretty rosy pink nude lipstick. Now I focus on eyes more, and then not always I feel like a rosy pink lipstick is the best choice. So when I put it in my project pan, it was also like, it isn't my absolute favorite anymore. I also didn't repurchase it, so it was a favorite for many years, but it isn't really anymore now. And now let's begin with everything that still is in my collection. First up, I mentioned two bronzer palettes. I mentioned the Nabla Skin Bronzing in Ambra. I still absolutely love this bronzer. I think this is a great product. It's so glowy, it's so easy to use, it's a beautiful color. I mentioned this in my 3 favorite products in every category. This is absolutely one of my favorite bronzers. Still is, and it has been this year. I've used it quite a lot. I'm really into this one. I don't regret mentioning this one in my 2020 favorites. Next up, the Smashbox Calicanto palette. During these favorites, these were basically the 2 bronzer products that I had. Since then, I've bought a lot more bronzers and I've tried a lot more bronzers, but this used to be the only thing that I used for bronzer before I bought Ambra and before I bought all the other things that I've this year. But this is still a great quality palette. I love using it. It is in my Shop My Stash right now, and I just love the pigmentation and the blendability of this palette. It just gives me the perfect amount of impact. It's easy to work in, it's easy to blend out, even though it's pretty pigmented, and it's not orange, it's very neutral to cool leaning. This is a great face palette still. It's a bit older. I don't feel like people still really talk about it, but it's great quality. Then I mentioned 2 blushes. One I mentioned was the Max Factor Seductive Pink Baked Blush. And the one I mentioned, I actually used up completely. This is a new one. I've recently put it in my project pan and I'm using this a lot again. And I'm also using it today. But I actually used up that blush completely and then I bought a new one and I'm using that one again. This is one of the best blushes, I feel, because it looks almost creamy. It has such a beautiful glow. It has such a beautiful color to it. It's like this cool tone pink with almost like a lilac-y glow that works really well, I feel, on my skin tone. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. I love it. It's been a favorite for years and it still is. Of course, first I basically only use this one. Now I'm more into mixing it up with the blushes. I've bought a lot of different blushes. 2021 was the year of blush for me, but this is still a great one. Then I mentioned Essence the blush in Befitting. This was also in my project pan for a while, but this is such a hard product to use up because it's a very pigmented, kind of stiff formula. I still think this is a beautiful formula. I still think this is a beautiful blush. It's a very pretty color. It has a very natural effect on the skin. Very skin-like. It's not matte. It's just a healthy, not really a glow, but almost a glow. It's not my absolute favorite anymore, but that's just because I've tried so many blushes and I'm more into a glowy blush right now. That Seductive Pink is a very nice amount of glow, but I'm even into more glowy blushes at this moment, and this is a bit too matte for me and my taste right now, so I still would highly recommend it. It's a great blush, but my tastes have changed a little bit, so I don't reach for this one a lot anymore. But if you're into kind of like matte blushes that have more of a natural sheen to them, then I would highly recommend this range by Essence. I have different colors in this that I really think are beautiful. This is a great formula, but I've just changed a bit and I've tried some different things, and I have a lot more blushes to compare this to right now. Then let's move on to the highlighters. The first one is the Nabla Skin Glazing in Privilege. This is my absolute favorite highlighter in my collection. I wear this so often. This is in my project pan. I've used this so much. The dip in this is crazy. I'm hoping to hit pan on this at some point. But this is such a good highlighter. Still love it, still enjoy it, still use it so much. It's like this pinky peach. It's very flattering and it looks like it's part of your skin. It gives such a beautiful glow, but also a little bit of warmth. I love a little bit of a peachy highlight, and this just gives me everything that I want in a highlight. It's so good. And this is still my number one. This is truly the best highlighter that I have. Next up, we have the Catrice Morning Glow highlighter in Supreme Rose Beam. This I haven't really used in the summer, but I love using this in like fall and winter because it's a little bit of a lighter shade. This is a gorgeous highlighter. I still really like it. I don't know if I would still call this my absolute favorite because I've tried a lot more highlighters that I really love this year, but I still would highly recommend it because it really blends into the skin. There's something very creamy about it. You can build it up, you can leave it a little bit more natural, and I just feel like when I wear this, I look kind of airbrushed. It's a formula that kind of perfects the skin, and I really still think it's so beautiful, and I think it's a very cute product. It's affordable and it just looks so good on the skin. I think if this was a little bit of a different color, a color that I would wear a lot more during the year, then this would be more up there towards the best highlighters. I'm just really into a little bit more of a warm toned peachy pinky highlighter right now, and this is kind of on the icy side looking at the color, so that's just my taste, but I still would highly recommend this one. Next up, I mentioned two more lip products. I mentioned the Nabla Creamy Dreamy Liquid Lipstick in Eve. Such a beautiful nude pinky peach color. Still love it, still into it. I think this is a great formula. It's such a beautiful shade. I love this. I really love this. I think I also mentioned this in my top 3 in every category. I can't imagine I didn't do that. So this is still one of my faves. It still deserves to be in the top spot for me. Next up, I put the Nabla Shine Theory Lip Gloss in Stardust Radio. Also put this in my top 3 in every category. This was the only gloss I put in that video. It's like the top one gloss. It's the gloss for me. I love this shade, love the formula. It's so comfortable, it smells so nice, it looks so great, it looks so shiny. I really think this is a beautiful gloss formula, but I also really love this kind of peachy red shade. It looks so flattering and juicy. I really am into this one still. It is still one of my absolute favorites in my collection. Not even looking at gloss, just looking at my overall collection, I really love that gloss. I actually think it's so fun to look back at these favorites because I feel like I was such a different person a year ago with such different tastes. I've tried so many things and I've changed my mind about so many things. So it kind of feels like I'm thrown back in time and I'm traveling back in time to the person I was kind of before I started my channel, kind of at the moment I started my channel. I was just looking at makeup in a bit of a different way. Now let's do the 2 last things before I talk about eyeshadow. I put in these 2 lip liners by MAC. These are the Pro Longwear lip liners in Nice and Spicy and in Control. So as you can see, I've used this one a lot. This one is in my project pan, and this one I've been using so much since I put it in there. It's like this little stump of of a lip liner. I don't know how long I'm gonna keep going with this, but when I declare this one finished, I'm gonna repurchase this one. It is so good. I love the formula because it's not too creamy, but it's creamy enough. It stays on very well. It's very easy to apply. It's just the right amount of creaminess, the right balance. It stays on so long. I love it. This one used to be my favorite in Control. This is the rosy one. It's a little bit of a similar shade to the Mehr matte lipstick. A very rosy nude, and I used to pair those two together a lot. But since I'm not using those types of colors a lot anymore, this isn't my absolute favorite anymore. But it's just a shade. It's not the formula. I would still highly recommend it. It's a beautiful shade, but I've just changed a little bit, and this is my absolute new favorite lip liner. I use this almost every day. I haven't used it today because I'm wearing a liquid lipstick, but when I use like a nude lipstick, something like that, I always grab for this one. I'm kind of surprised that there isn't a Sephora Cream lip stain on this list because I love the Sephora Cream lip stain formula. I'm wearing a Sephora Cream lip stain now. It's still one of the best liquid lipstick formulas I've tried. It's so comfortable, it's not sticky, it's long wearing. I really love it. It's also very affordable. So I would have guessed that I would have mentioned that in that video, so I'm mentioning it now. I really love that lipstick formula. It's still a favorite. Sometimes I remember things a bit differently than things actually were. Okay, let's move on to the eyeshadows. I have a lot here in front of me. I've been into eyeshadows for quite some time. I love eyeshadow, so this is like half of everything that I put in that video. First up, I think this is an interesting one. I put in the Natasha Denona Mini Glam. At this point, I was still pretty impressed by this palette, and I was still pretty impressed by this formula, and I was still kind of into it. My eyeshadow just completely broke. This one just completely broke. It's so soft. It keeps breaking. I keep pressing it back. I don't know if you can see it. Look at that. That just happened. Okay, so that's a thing that I don't really like about this palette. Let me just see if I can press it back. That eyeshadow keeps wanting to run away from me. Maybe it feels that I don't really like it. It's like, you don't even care about me. I'm out of here. Okay, so I kind of pressed it back. So I feel like when I first got this, I was still very much buying into the hype of Natasha Denona. I was still feeling like I paid 25 euros for this, a small palette, so I have to like it. Everybody likes it, so I have to like it. But using it more, I just don't really feel like this is worth it. The mattes are nice. By the way, I hit pan on this one because I had this in my project pan. I'm gonna try and upload my project pan before this so you don't see this spoiler, but if that doesn't happen, this is a project pan spoiler. I hit pan, but that is very deliberate. I focused on this a lot. I just wanted to use this more since I paid so much money for it, but I didn't really love it this year as much as last year. When I just bought it, I was like, this is so nice. I love Natasha Denona, such pretty looks. But in the end, I feel like this is a very limiting palette. I don't love the undertones, and I think that the shimmers are just not very special, not very interesting. This is a palette that I could easily live without. I like the Colourpop Going Coconuts more. That's another palette that I'm gonna show you in just a bit. So I kind of changed my mind about this. At first I was like, yay, Natasha Denona, I love it, it's so good. But using it more, I just love special shimmers more, and I just love interesting shimmers more, and I don't feel like this is worth the money. Especially, it doesn't seem like that much, but it's a mini palette for 25 euros. And there are 3 shimmers in here that I'm just like, it's okay, it's okay. I just feel like they're okay. I don't say that this is a bad palette. I feel like it's a pretty okay formula. It's pretty nice. I don't hate it, but it's just definitely not a favorite anymore, especially after trying more things this year. I've discovered shimmer formulas that I think are so much better than this. So yeah, it's not really the mattes in here, it's just the shimmers I don't think are very special or interesting. And then I'd rather put this money towards an indie brand that actually does special interesting shimmers. So with this palette, it's kind of like a personal taste thing that has changed, that I've realized I don't really like these basic shimmers. I don't mind basic shimmers, but I do like them to be very shiny and kind of thick. There has to be some kind of thickness to it, and that's just what I like. This is just not that interesting to me anymore. I don't feel like I'm explaining this properly because I don't really know what happened. Because I used to like this, but I think I was kind of fooling myself and telling myself that I liked it, but I didn't really. And I feel after reviewing makeup for a year, I've become much more aware of what I like and what I don't like. I've become much better at realizing which products are good, which are gonna be my favorites, which I'm not gonna like. I've been looking at products in a very different way. When you review products, you really look at all the details. And when I bought this, I was not there yet. I wasn't bad at reviewing products, I feel. Definitely not in comparison to a few years before, but I just know what I like now. I just know what I like, and this is not a favorite. It's just too basic. It's just too basic. So I already mentioned it, but another favorite was the Colourpop Going Coconuts palette. I actually was a bit late with trying this one. This wasn't new in 2020, I think. But I really love this palette. We have some interesting undertones, some interesting options. I think this shimmer is gorgeous. It's very crumbly though, but it's very shiny. It's very textured. This really makes this whole palette worth it to me. Together with these two mattes, I really love them. When I do a look with this, I just love it. I feel more inspired by it. It's basic, but in a way that I really like, because I just love all the formulas in here. This is a great palette. I would recommend this one over the Natasha Denona Mini Glam for sure. Still love it, still a favorite. Then I also mentioned the Side by Side Nude by Nabla. Also still a favorite. This is such a great formula. I love the different textures in here, the different shades. I did kind of like a bronzy look with this one a few days ago. Really loved it. This is just great quality. I love the whole vibe. I love how sleek this is. This is one of my favorite neutral palettes. I feel like this has so many options in it, and they did a great job. I still would highly recommend this one. Then I also put in two single eyeshadows by Nabla. One of them is this one in Water Dream. This one I haven't used as much as I was expecting, but it's still a favorite because it's one of the most amazing shimmery textured eyeshadows that I have. It has a see-through base and then so many champagne colored shimmers that make it look wet. You can use it with any look almost. You can amp up so many different looks. I do go into this as an inner corner highlight as well. It's just very pretty. It's one of the best single eyeshadows by Nabla. Totally would recommend it. And I did an updated video swatching on my Nabla singles. I will link it down below so you can see the swatches of these. But I think Water Dream is still amazing. Still love it. I definitely should use it a little bit more. Then I also put in one other single by Nabla, this one in the shade Mystic. This one is such a beautiful kind of mauve champagne tone, very shiny. I haven't used it as much this year. I feel like I've kind of neglected it, but I still really love it. I still think it's really pretty. I still would recommend it. I've just forgotten a little bit about these single eyeshadows, to be honest, but I still would highly recommend them and they are amazing. This is all my fault and I should pay more attention to them. Then next up we have the Blueberry Muffin palette. This is like the palette of 2020 for me. Everybody was raving about this. Everybody was buying this. I saw so many people buying this and then tagging Angelica because she made this palette, like she hyped this palette up like crazy. She talked about this so much. I still think it's a great quality palette, but I haven't used it as much. And I've tried a lot of other palettes this year that I actually love more. I get the hype with this one. I get why she loved it so much because these colorful mattes work really well. The shimmers are really pretty, but right now I'm a little bit more into different colors, into different textures. We have some textured shades in here, but not as much as some others. We also don't really have multi-chromes and things like that in this. So in my mind, this is a little bit less exciting, a little bit more basic in comparison to some other things. I think at this point, I like this one better for sure because I like the shades in here and I can just reach for the shades whenever whenever I feel like it. Neutrals are my go-to at this moment. Blues, not so much. I still love blue looks, but this just gives me what I want because it's interesting, it's different, but it's still neutral and wearable, and we have a lot of different textures here, which I miss a little bit in the Blueberry Muffin. There are some textures. We do have some different types of shimmers, but it's not on the same level as some other palettes. So I would still recommend it. I do still like it, but if I would remake this video just saying what are my favorites right now, that one wouldn't be in it. And then the last one for this video is the Colourpop Strawberry Shake eyeshadow palette. This was my favorite eyeshadow palette basically in my collection for years. And I still love this color story. It's still very pretty. It's such a nice balance between colors and kind of neutrals. Not like true neutrals, but you can get some softer looks. You can make this a little bit more on the soft side. I think this is a gorgeous palette with a beautiful formula. Love the combination of shades in here, but I haven't really been reaching for this one a lot this year. It's just not the colors that I'm into right now. These kind of like bright light pinks. Haven't been reaching for it a lot for some reason. In the summer I used to do these types of looks a lot, but I've just been grabbing for some other things. Kind of making some more smoky looks, a little bit more contrasty looks. So I still really love this one, but right now I'm just not reaching for it a lot, and I haven't been reaching for it a lot. That could change again because I still really love this color story and this quality, but I've just been going to different color stories, and this used to be the colorful color story because I never wore color before, and this was like branching out. This was something interesting. This was doing something different, and now I feel like I have so many more color options, so many different colors that I like to wear, so many different palettes. So right now I would still say it's one of my favorites, but it's not at the top anymore. It's not in my top 5, and it used to be. Could still change. I'm definitely not gonna get rid of this palette because I still think it's really pretty. Right now I'm just focusing on some different types of looks, and my tastes are just a little bit different, but it's also something that changes with the seasons. Every season my tastes change again, and I find some different things, and all of a sudden I'm into cream products, and all of a sudden I'm wearing peachy cheek products, and I never used to do that. So some of these products, they are still good. I still think they're really good, but maybe I've changed a little bit. So this is gonna be everything for looking back at my 2020 favorites. Let me know what are some older favorites that you are still really into, or maybe some older favorites that you have moved away from a little bit. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm gonna be doing these types of wrap-up videos in the coming month. I'm really excited about that, and then I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.